In the Channel 9 car park in Melbourne, with a crane looming overhead, Arthur Coglan lowered his slender frame into a 44-gallon steel barrel. With superhuman powers of contortion, he wedged himself far enough in for the lid to be locked from the outside. He would have just 90 seconds to escape before the barrel was dropped from a height of 30 meters. It was August 6, 1979, and the millions of Australians watching at home had no idea how close Arthur came to. Arthur had turned to escapology to raise his profile as a magician, and being booked for Channel 9's top-rating Don Lane show was the break he needed. He decided he had to do something really big if he was going to go on the biggest variety show in Australia, his daughter Helen Coglan recalls. And so, Arthur dreamed up the most daring, most dangerous escape his magical mind could think of. "I thought it had to be dangerous for people to watch it," Arthur says. "I don't think anybody wants to see anybody die, but I mean, they don't want to miss it if somebody does." M to mute, left and right arrows to seek, up and down arrows for volume. Watch 1 minute 47 seconds 1 minute and 47 seconds. Arthur knew he had to do something dangerous when he went live on the Don Lane show. In the 70s, safety wasn't what it is now. Arthur's assurances it would all be fine were enough to satisfy the program's executive producer, Peter Feynman. He just wanted a good show. "I was assured it was impressive, it would look spectacular, and it was a legitimate escape, and he was a legitimate escapologist," Feynman says. "No escapologist is going to put their life on the line to be on a variety show." Earlier, independent engineers had checked over the barrel with a fine-tooth comb to ensure there was no deception and the escape was the real deal. They brought their own locks which they fastened to the steel rod that threaded through the barrel from one end to the other. "To me, there is no physical way he can do it," one of the engineers told the audience. At the family home on the Gold Coast, Arthur's wife Val paced nervously in the kitchen as Helen and her two older siblings sat glued to the television. "I never ever went to see any of Arthur's escapes," Val says. "I would rather be at home, and they let me know it was successful." She took a deep breath as Don Lane announced the barrel would be hoisted to a height of 100 feet by a crane, and then dropped automatically out of that big box, and it will crash to the concrete surface below. Lane then quipped, "We have hopes Arthur will be out of it before it crashes to the bottom." As the box rose into the air, Arthur had 90 seconds to get out. There were no contingencies. Failure was certain. "I knew exactly what I had to do," Arthur recalls. "But unfortunately, it didn't work, and that's when I started to panic because I was stuck." Fast forward more than 40 years and Arthur is still making magic happen and is enjoying a career renaissance, albeit with feet firmly on the ground. He's working behind the scenes as his daughter Helen takes center stage in front of a global television audience. More than 40 years on, Arthur still vividly remembers the day he almost on live television. Four-time foolers boggle minds of best magicians. At 89, Arthur is basking in the success Helen is having on the US television show Penn and Teller Fool Us. Penn Jillette and Teller are American world-renowned magicians, entertainers, and scientific skeptics who have performed together since the late 1970s. Their program features magicians from around the world trying their hand at fooling two of the best in the business. Arthur has designed and built the tricks that Helen performs on Fool Us. Not only is she a crowd favorite, but she has now fooled Penn and Teller a record 4 times, one of only 2 magicians in the world to do so. It would seem Penn and Teller have met their match with Helen and Arthur. "They are 2 of the finest minds in magic," Penn says. "He can build the stuff and design it, and then Helen executes it beautifully." Arthur has affectionately named his workshop 100-acre wood. Arthur is endlessly tinkering in his shed, coming up with the next big escape. From hairdresser dreams to Houdini escapes. Helen started as a magician's assistant in her teens. "I actually wanted to be a hairdresser," Helen says. "And I couldn't get a hairdressing apprenticeship anywhere. She thought she'd give the magic a try until something better came along, but nothing better ever did. Helen became a regular in her dad's popular shows at the Gold Coast's Magic Castle, later Magic Mountain, graduating from assistant to magician. As a trailblazer in the blokey world of magic, Helen relished a challenge and the chance to show up the boys. I remember some of Dad's male magician friends were saying that escapology was a male domain and that women couldn't do escapes, Helen says. And to me, it was like, excuse me. Arthur and Helen reminisce about their decades of performing. Arthur wasn't keen on Helen taking risks, but she was determined, so from that point all I can do is help her, he recalls. In 1987, Helen became the first woman in the world to perform Houdini's water torture escape, a terrifying, underwater stunt invented by the great Harry Houdini and first performed by him in 1913. Arthur and Helen performed their levitating car trick. Undeterred by Arthur's brush with on live television, Helen repeated the water torture escape live on the Darren Hinch show in 1994, by now a mother of a 1-year-old daughter, Maddie. Her preparation had included holding her breath for increasing periods of time in the bath, singing Elton John's Goodbye Yellow Brick Road in her head to distract her from the urge to breathe. I was so nervous, and at the time I'm thinking, what the hell am I doing? Why did I have to prove this to these guys, she says. Helen can laugh about it now, but it still makes for dramatic viewing. My ankles were locked into a set of stocks. I was lifted upside down and then lowered into a tank of water, and the stocks were locked onto the tank, Helen explains. Arthur never doubted his daughter, but concedes it required nerves of steel. Once your head's under, you get past the point of no return, he says. Helen made it out in under 2 minutes. I remember sitting on top of the tank, and I had enough time to make sure my hair looked okay, she says. Helen Coglan was the first woman in the world to perform Houdini's water torture cell escape. The Gold Coast woman did it on the midday show in 1994. A magical career renaissance. Soon after the Hinch appearance, Arthur and Helen stepped away from magic for some time. Helen had 2 growing children and began working as a marriage celebrant. They both felt like they'd lost some of their sparkle after years of back-to-back shows. I'd be in the wings waiting to be introduced and think I really don't want to go on, remembers Arthur. But they never gave up the charity shows, raising thousands of dollars for various causes over the years. About 3 years ago, Arthur urged Helen to audition for a US magic show hosted by the famous Penn and Teller. I knew who they were, but I'd never heard of the show before. I just did it to get him off my back, she remembers. Before long, Helen and the extended Cogland family were flying to Las Vegas, the magic capital of the world. It didn't feel real. We knew nothing about her, Penn explains. She pulled out these props that were deceptively simple. And then she did just a trick with a stick and some milk that we were unable to figure out. It was pretty wonderful. We were thrilled to be fooled by her, and she had such a charming presence. Loading. Energized by this success, Arthur's mind is now whirring with ideas. He spends every spare moment either thinking of magic or making magic in his workshop, affectionately called 100-acre wood after the fictional world in Winnie the Pooh. It's a ramshackle and eccentric collection of tools, machinery, memorabilia, and magic contraptions old and new, where visitors might find themselves shuffled into a straitjacket or locked into a guillotine with a blade dangling overhead. Arthur and Helen Coglan with the guillotine. Arthur is constantly creating new contraptions for Helen to perform with. Arthur is the mastermind behind some of his daughter Helen's best escapes. Helen and Arthur agree that they've rediscovered their love of magic, but the days of danger are well and truly gone. We've done all that, Arthur says. I think people appreciate the S in doing it safely. In a corner of Arthur's shed are 2 barrels, mementos from more daring days. One is from his 1977 escape from Sydney Harbour on ABC's A Big Country. The barrel, with Arthur locked in it, was winched from a boat down into the cool winter waters. He held his breath as the water flooded in and emerged within 2 minutes, tired but triumphant. It was freezing